Thank you.
I don't think I need a microphone.
Oh, he's got a big voice.
Oh,
Yeah,
up
but we're
there.
taping
they
it,
do.
so.
Yes. This question is related to the gentleman's question over there, which I think what he was getting at was the point of a social safety net. And I would argue that your point about the leaders having that power to control us, that they are allowed and granted that power because there are a tremendous amount of people who are looking to people who are going to help them, in many cases, give them things.
Yeah.
And they're looking for a social safety net, which in eons past was provided by charity. The government wasn't giving people things. But the concept of the social safety net controlled by a central government is, I believe, so entrenched in our modern society and our modern thinking that it is virtually impossible to think of it going away. However, there is a constant struggle. How much of a safety net is necessary versus how much should we take away and force the independence that you talk about, people being independent, supporting themselves or their family, helping those in, or friends or church, charities helping those that need help, rather than the government providing.
Sure.
What do you think is the best way for those of us that believe the social safety net has become too strong and too dominant and has reduced basically all of our standard of living? What's the best way for us to explain and get the word out that yes, a safety net is necessary? We would prefer the church does it, but if the government does it, it should be smaller. How can we help convince people and help them understand
Sure.
that they don't need the government to provide everything?
So before I answer that question, let me challenge an assumption you've made, because I actually don't agree with it. The assumption is that the powers to be get their power from the people who want wealth distributed in their direction. And this is kind of the Mitt Romney, I don't know if you follow American politics, Mitt Romney made this 49% comment. 49% of Americans get stuff from the government, so they're going to vote for the left, right? They're going to vote for more. Well, that's not reality. Reality is that rich people vote for the left as much as poor people vote for the left, that educated people vote for the left in America more than uneducated people. It's actually people who are successful. Actually, it used to be the opposite. It used to be that educated people voted for more freedom, if you will, for Republicans. Today, over 50% of people with a college education vote Democratic. So, I don't think that's true. I think they're motivated, people are motivated by guilt as much as they're motivated by I want stuff. And a lot of people who are getting stuff from the government would rather not get stuff from the government, want to vote for freedom. And this is, I think, the key. So I'm against the safety net, a government-sponsored safety net. I believe that any safety net should be voluntary. And I think you have to fight for that. You have to fight against the idea of a coercive safety net. Because if you're just fighting to shrink the safety net, you're not fighting on principle. What's the principle? Giving somebody $1,000 is too much, but 400 is okay? Why? Why not? It's like the minimum wage, right? In America today. It's $7, they want to make it $15. I would say, why not make it $100? I mean, if the minimum wage works, why not make it $100? Everybody can be rich. Of course, then they realize that can be, right? You have to fight for no minimum wage, because otherwise it's a slippery slope. There's no reason not to make it higher. There's no once you accept the safety net, you lose control over how big it's going to be. So you have to make the case that a safety net is bad for two reasons. One, it's coercive. And we have to make a case that coercion is evil. Coercion is bad. Taking a gun, sticking at somebody's back and saying, give me your money, is wrong. It's wrong when an individual does it in a back alley in the street, and it's wrong when the government does it by pulling the money out of your paycheck without you even having a chance to get it.
You're in the middle of your answering the question, but I have to interrupt. Some people believe that coercion is a necessary evil to provide the sufficiency.
Yes.
Yeah.
I say there is no such thing as necessary evils. Evil is evil is evil. Just because you want it, just because they need it, doesn't make it necessary. Evil is evil. Just the fact that we use necessary evil suggests that something's wrong here, right? Evil should never be necessary. Only good should be necessary. So coercion is wrong. I give you an easy example, a simple concrete to remember. Let's say my neighbor is sick, or his child is sick, make it more emotional. His child is sick, and he doesn't have enough money for the treatment. Dying, the child is dying, doesn't have enough money for the treatment. He only has two options. I have money, let's say. He can come to me and ask me to help. And I might help, but I might.
You might not.
But I might not. Maybe my children need the money right now. Maybe I don't have any money to spare. Maybe this neighbor is a really, really bad guy. There are many, many reasons why I would not help. There are also many, many reasons why I would. But it's my choice. He can ask for my help. The second alternative is he can pull a gun out and force me to help. Now, if he literally did that, we would say he's a crook, he's a thief, even though the cause might be good. We would say, that's wrong, you can't pull out a gun and take my money. And we would put him in jail. But this is, now he pulls a trick. It's a mind trick, right? He goes to all the neighbors, and he says, I want his money. Let's vote on it. And we vote. And 51% of the neighbors say, yes, we should take his money. And now when he pulls the gun at me and takes my money away, now it's okay. We took something that's clearly immoral, clearly wrong, clearly identifiable as theft, and by voting, turned it into something that's okay.
So democracy is actually abused for illegitimate reasons.
Democracy has always been abused to violate the rights of an individual in the name of the majority. Think back again to Greece. Think of Socrates. Everybody know Socrates, the great Greek philosopher?
Everyone.
Walked around town and used to ask young people questions, right? The dialogues. If you've studied Plato, you know the dialogues. And he was corrupting the youth. He was challenging the ideas of the elders. He was challenging religion. So the people in Athens said, ooh, this is bad. We don't want Socrates challenging conventional wisdom. We don't want Socrates challenging religion. We need to silence Socrates. So they got together and they voted to silence Socrates. Now, what's the only way you could silence a philosopher like Socrates? By killing him. So they voted to kill him. Right? So that's democracy. Full democracy is when the majority is controlling the individual. Where the majority imposes itself on the minority. Now let me give the second reason. I still owe you another reason to argue against. So one is that coercion is evil. And I haven't really justified that coercion is evil fully. There's a lot of literature on that by Ayn Rand. It's the fact that coercion is the enemy of reason, but we don't have time to get into the whole argument. The second argument is that when you give people money, particularly when it's unconditional, like the welfare state, you're destroying their lives. It goes back to my point earlier about where we get self-esteem.
So by offering help, you're not helping them. You're
not helping them. Unless you're helping them as a one-time thing in an emergency, which is what the old safety net used to do. When the safety net is voluntary, it's not perpetual. You don't live off of charity anymore. Charity is there for emergencies. Charity is there for a while something bad has happened and to get you back on your feet. It's not to be perpetual support. When you give somebody perpetual support, what happens? You disincentivize them from work. And if they don't work, they never have the sense of taking care of themselves. They never make something for themselves. They're dependent. They're not independent. They never get to use their mind to solve a problem. They're just sitting in couch potatoes, watching television, getting checks from the government. So you deny them pride, you deny them self-esteem, you're destroying them. The recipient of welfare is the victim of welfare. Welfare is a way to institutionalize people into unhappiness. It institutionalizes them into poverty. Opportunities are taken away from them. It's bad for the recipient. If you care about people, I care about people. I care about any person who's ambitious, who wants to make a better life for themselves. Giving them a check doesn't help them. It makes them worse. Giving them opportunities, giving them a job, that helps them. That gives them real opportunities. So I'll give you an example that a friend of ours, John Allison, uses, which is actually out of his own personal experience. His grandfather, John Allison's the CEO of one of the largest financial institutions in the United States, or was. He's retired now. 10th largest bank in the United States financial. He was the CEO for many, many years. He built the bank up to become this big. So a very successful individual. And he tells a story about his grandfather. His grandfather was a bricklayer, very poor, worked with his hands, laid bricks, made very little money. But he made money. He fed his family. He came back to a little home, and the food was simple, but it was food he was providing. So he had an immense sense of pride that whatever it is that he was providing, he was providing. He was capable of taking care of his family in this world at whatever level he could, providing his children with an education, and maybe one of his children or one of his grandchildren would be the CEO of a great company one day. But that sense of pride that you took care of yourself and your family, you deny that when you give people welfare. And that's the way you destroy their lives. So if you care about the poor, or at least those among the poor who are ambitious, you should hate welfare. You should hate the safety net. It doesn't help them, it destroys them.
So you're totally against the very idea of coercive social safety net or welfare, because it destroys productiveness and
Absolutely.
perpetuates dependency.
Yes, and I would say that even if it was voluntary,
Even if it's
but it
voluntary,
was the same thing, it was
Okay.
perpetual,
Okay.
I would be against it. I would be for charity that helps people in emergencies, or that helps people who really can't take care of themselves. They're sick, or they were born with some lack of capacity that makes it impossible to take care of themselves. But that's a fraction of a percent. Most people can take care of themselves. And then they need help to get back on their feet when something bad happens to them. That's the kind of charity that is helpful to human beings.
Thank you.
And in the back.
Miss Rand's point of view is still comparatively unknown in America, but if it ever did take hold, it would revolutionize our lives. And Ayn, to begin with, I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize, I know this is difficult, can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute, that man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it, and that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
How does objectivism differ from the philosophies that many of us have been exposed to in our youths? Philosophies based upon religions, theologians, dogmatists.
The very first difference objectivism tells you that it is not right, it is not proper to man to take anything on faith. Religion is a matter of faith. You accept a religion emotionally or because you were born to it. You have not chosen it rationally. What objectivism will tell you is that reason, man's reason is his basic means of survival. That is the most important faculty which he has, and he has to guide his life and make his choices by means of his rational faculty. He has to make his own choices, but he has to know how to make them. It is immoral for him to act on his emotions, to be guided by the whim of the moment. That objectivism holds as very wrong, very immoral. And morality, in fact, consists of following your reason to the best of your ability. So that rationality is the basic virtue from which all the others proceed.
My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
Tell me the value of selfishness.
Use another word, self-esteem. The value of selfishness is that you esteem yourself as a value, that you live according to your nature, which means by the judgment of your own mind, and you respect your own mind, you respect your own ability to do the right thing, therefore you respect the possibility of being a morally virtuous person, and you regard yourself as a value worth preserving. To make a success of yourself in any line of rational activity is a great virtue. And people will attack you for exercising your ability, for hard work, for consistency, for ambition. And they will want to make you feel guilty of it. That is the greatest evil, according to my philosophy.
And wait, say that again. The greatest evil, according to your philosophy, is to attack an individual because of virtue.
What I call it is to experience or act on hatred of the good for being the good. That is attacking people for their virtues, for their achievements, for anything they have which is a value, actually, not for their flaws and not for their evil. In fact, people who preach that are the ones who are mawkish about the evil people, the failures, the liars, the cheats, everybody who is weak suddenly acquires some kind of value. But anyone who is a success has to be attacked for his success.
And look at how you have been attacked.
Oh, I know.
How you have been criticized. There are many people in this country, forgive me, in this world who think you're daft.
They don't. They want you to think that.